Hey guys, welcome to this video. My name's Dan. Today I'm going to show you how to take apart the Sunpumps pool pump and how to repair it. I was given a request to make a video on how to swap out the bearings in our motor, and just to give you a heads up, you're going to probably expect about efficiently an hour worth of labor involved. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take the pump. You're going to disconnect it from all your plumbing. You want your pump looking basically like this when you get started. And we're going to go ahead and remove our base. We're going to remove these two screws. We got one right here and one right here. These are a 3/8 screw. So make sure I'm going the right way here. And I apologize for the shakiness. I'm not much of a cameraman. I'm the pump technician here at Sunpumps. I work and build and do all those repairs as the pumps come in. All right. And if you feel the need to skip ahead, by all means, I will not be offended. All right, once you got those two screws out, go ahead and set them aside. Try not to lose the washers. I usually try to keep everything in order. We can now pull our motor support off and set that aside. Next, we're going to undo these bolts right here on this outer edge. These are a 9/16 or a 14 millimeter. And I'm going to just go ahead and loosen these all up for starters. And then I'm going to use my drill to get them the rest of the way. Now these are a two-part. There is the brass nut on the undersides, and these can fall out. Sometimes they will stay put. It's kind of nice that they do stay put. If you are working on an SVL style pump, it's the larger version of these. It's pretty much all going to be the same process. All the brushless motors are going to be the same. If it's a 240, a 120, yeah, it'll be pretty much the same. All right, once I've got those separated, I'm just going to go ahead and pull that apart, set it aside. You can pull these off. Try to keep the lock washer and washer together because you will need those to put it all back together. All right, once we got all our bolts removed, we can now just take this and separate it, pull it right out. And this is our gluten. We'll set that aside. And now we will remove our diffuser. And there's these two tiny little screws that hold our diffuser in. This is a 332 Allen key that you will need. Now, if you're working on the SVL, you'll notice the diffuser is slightly different, and it's going to have this rounded notch in it, and this just means it goes towards the top. So it'll be the same other than that. Okay, we go ahead and set our diffuser aside. We do have an O-ring. You can check that. Make sure it's still pliable. If it's split and cracking, it'd be good to replace that at this time. Next, in here, we have this screw. Now, this is a reverse threaded screw, which means it's going to tighten by turning counterclockwise, and it will loosen turning clockwise. So to loosen it, we're going to go ahead and turn to clockwise rotation. So we're turning this around in that direction. And also there is a gasket and silicone that usually goes on this screw here. So our gasket is still stuck down in there. It's got a lot of silicone in there. And it would be a good time to replace this gasket as well. If it's still pliable or looks okay, you could probably just throw some silicone, some marine grade silicone, and there's a little gasket. I'm just going to slide that back on. All right, so there's that bit of silicone that's down in there. We'll eventually get that all cleaned out before we put our impeller back on, but once we have that screw out, we can now try to turn this, and we can do that by taking a flathead screwdriver, and we can poke it in the back here to hold the fan in place while we grip right here on the impeller, and we turn counterclockwise to loosen. And if it will, sometimes it will be so seated on there, though this may not work. You don't want to force it. You could break your fan. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to actually remove our fan housing, and we will do that with a Phillips. We got 3 Phillips screws here. Once those 3 screws are out, just kind of set them to the side. Where'd my other one go? There we are. Okay. Try to keep them all together. Next, this fan shroud is going to be on there kind of tight, so I'm just going to take my flat side of my screwdriver here, and I'm going to go around, work it with a little rubber mallet to tap it up. I'm just kind of working it around. Eventually it should slide off just like so. And now this gives us access to our fan. We can hold our fan and try to turn, and there we go, we got it off. If we cannot get this off by holding the fan and it's turning the rotor and your fan is slipping, take the snap ring off, and we'll take the fan off and then get some vice grips or channel locks, hold that shaft down, and then you can take another pair of channel locks and grip around this edge and just give it a turn, and it should come off. Now, granted, if your motor looks something like this guy here, this is a one that was well corroded, and it was so corroded the screws were broken off in here. The shaft is completely seized up, could not turn it at all. If your motor's looking like this, you may have a hell of a time trying to get this thing apart, and this video may be a waste of your time. But yeah, that's hopefully that's not the case, and yours will come apart as easy as this one does. Anyways, once we get it to this point, we can go ahead and take and separate the motor for the rest of the way. And once again, this is a 9/16 or 14 millimeter. Now this one's on kind of tight. Ooh. All right, take that off. So and that comes off. There we go. And now we have our faceplate. We do have the shaft seal that's in here. To replace the shaft seal, we're going to just take a little tool, just that's big enough, round enough. I've got this little tool here. I'm going to just gently pop it out, and there you go. Here is the half of our shaft seal. This one's still good, so I'm just going to pull the silicone off and reuse this one. Well, there is an O-ring right there. I'm going to take off. And clear out all the silicone that's in this area here. We don't want that excess getting in the way. And to remove this part of the shaft seal, I do have this little spoon pick here. And in order to get it out, I'm not going to take this one out, but this will just pry out if I were to just slide this in here. I don't want to damage this. You can count on this part of the shaft seal being damaged if you try cutting or digging it out. So just expect that. I'm not going to take this out right now, but I'm just wanting to show you. I use a little pick and I slide it right in between the rubber and the hard plastic, and I can get underneath and it will pop right out. So I'm just going to set that aside, set that aside. What we're going to focus on now here is the motor. I'm going to just take it over here to where I got my little stand that I can set it on. Now with the motor, we're just going to separate. Everything's still working on this. The rotor rotates around fine. There are the bearings that we're wanting to get to. And we're going to take our snap ring pliers and remove our snap ring here. Once that snap ring is off, this will slide right off. You may need a flathead screwdriver to just gently pry it up. And now we can go ahead and undo these 4 screws. I'm just going to start by loosening them here with now this is a 1/8 inch hex bit that I'm using to just kind of break them free. It was a little bit tighter. Almost a little too tight on that one. I might have to get a little impact, or hopefully I don't have to drill this one out. See, you can see all the corrosion, this white corrosion, pool water, the muriatic acid, the chlorine. It reacts heavily to the aluminum housings. If you have a leak in your plumbing system, I would highly recommend you get it fixed as quickly as possible so as not to ruin your aluminum housing and cause everything to just become permanently bound up, because it really is very annoying. I think I'm going to have to cut that one out. Yep, it's stripping. That one's in there tight. So I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to flip this around and we're going to remove these ones here. I'm going to do this the opposite way. Hopefully this will break through. So now you can do this from either end. I usually find the other end a little bit quicker and easier, but that's all right. These ones are loosening them up, so that's what I'm going to work with here. All right, I got my drill. Quickly move these ones out. Looks like this side was a bit better protected from the elements. Okay, we'll set those screws aside. Now this rubber slinger, this is a slinger. It's not meant to sit deep down in here. As you can see, there's this little bit of a notch right here on this shaft. This slides on and it only goes down to right there. That's as far as it goes. We won't shove it down in. This is just to help any water that's traveling in not get to the bearing. It's to sling the water out. So it's just a little protective rubber. All right, now that we got that off, what you will need to do is we're going to take a torch, and on this end we're going to heat up this back side. And this is to get the aluminum housing to expand just enough to have this bearing slide out and stay on the shaft. We don't want the bearing staying on the, we don't want it staying in the aluminum housing. We want it to come out with the shaft. So I'm going to heat this aluminum housing up to get it to expand a bit. Okay, and always be careful because it is going to be hot once you heat it up. I do have my little rubber mallet here, and I'm just going to give it a little tap. And as you can see, it broke away, and now I can just pull on this, and we're going to slide that out. And there is our rotor. We have our bearing here, and we have our bearing here. We can set that aside for the time being. We're not going to change anything up with this. Our stator inside looks good. There's nothing, it's not corroded on the inside, so we're good there. I did test this stator earlier, and it's all good. So now we need to separate the rotor from our housing here. And in order to do that, we're just going to take this part, and we're now going to heat up this side. Once that's heated up, I'm just going to just kind of gently tap as I go around. Don't want to hit it too hard. If it's not coming out, there is sometimes I have to put a little Loctite on that bearing. It's not coming right away, give it a little more heat. And there we go, off she came. And now we have our rotor and our bearings. Now to swap out the bearings, it's just a simple matter of taking a bearing puller tool. You can find those at Ace or AutoZone or O'Reilly's. A lot of auto stores will have them. It's just a bearing puller. All it is a little jaws that clamp on here, and you rotate the nut down and it will slowly pull these off. And then to get them back on, if you got new bearings, what you'll do is you will take a little bit of oil, like motor oil or stainless steel lubricant oil, and put it on the inside of the shaft or the bearing, so it'll be easier when you're pressing on, that you're not going on an angle. But you will have to press the bearings on, so you'll need a plate with a notch or some sort of press to where you can just slide those on, and they will slide down just to that notch. And once you get to this point, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Putting it back together, same thing, only now we're working in reverse. I'm going to slide this back in. Before I do, I'm going to add just a tad bit of this. Now this is the blue Loctite. It's not a super firm, but it's enough to, if there's any expansion, it'll keep the bearing from slipping. And I'm just going around putting a little bit on there. It's still kind of hot to the touch. That's why I wear gloves. And we will heat this up again. And we will drop that down in, and hopefully it'll go right in just like that. Always make sure that it's fully seated. A lot of times it will cool down real fast and you only be in partial of the way, but this is exactly what we want. I mean, it dropped down in there. You can kind of see there's just a tiny little bit of a space, but yeah. Next, make sure your rotor is clean. This is a magnet, very strong magnet. It'll pick up little metal shavings real easily. Make sure that it's clean, that you don't have any stuff or debris on it. Also, this edge right here, we want to make sure that this is clean, that there is nothing on it. That is still very warm to the touch. Ooh. But we're going to rotate it around and take note of this notch right here. This notch is where our wires are coming out on our stator assembly right here. So that needs to go into there, and we want to make sure that lines up. Also, and the reason I pull it typically from the other end is on this side, deep down in there, there is a little wave washer, and we don't want that to fall out. We want to make sure it's in there. This one happened to stay in, so that's good. We're just going to leave it right there where it sits. And we're going to take this and we're going to heat up this side of the housing again. And we're going to line up our wires with that notch. And as we come down, this is going to want to grab, so be careful because this magnet will want to shoot up into the stator. I sometimes use the meaty part of my palm here to kind of protect and help slide it down without it jumping too hard. As you can kind of see, let me see if I can back this off just a little bit. This is kind of hard to do with a camera in my face, but just be very careful because it is a very strong magnet and it does like to pinch. And there we go. And you can just kind of rotate it to make sure it drops down into place. You can gently tap it down. We'll go ahead and flip it around. And we can now put our screws back in. And I just go opposite side, kind of like putting on a car tire. And then I'm just going to go a little hand tight. I'm not going super tight with these, just kind of finger tight. I'm just using this small little quarter inch ratchet. It works great, perfect for this. Just snugging it up. And what we're hoping to achieve here is we want to make sure when we look at it, our heat sink should be perfectly flush with our end bell right here, all the way around. And that's what we want right there. And because I did loosen these up, I'm just going to tighten these back down. I did not go this route on this side, so just make sure these are tight. And this was the one that a little too corroded in there. We can put our fan back on. It slides on just like that. There's a flat side of the shaft. Makes it self-explanatory. And then we take our snap ring pliers with our little snap ring, and we're going to slide that on right there down into that groove. And we can now put our, I guess I could have put this on earlier, but our little rubber slinger, slide that on to where it needs to go. And now put our fan shroud back on. We got our 3 screws right here where I left them. And to get the fan shroud back on, because it's such a tight fit, I take note of my holes. I have 1 here and 2 on the side where my screws are going to go. Once this cools down, it goes pretty tight. It may not want to go, and it tightened up. So I'm going to actually just kind of heat this up a little bit. Don't want to melt it. I'm just applying quick, rapid heat to get it to expand a little bit, and I'm going to rotate it around just like this with my heat pointing up into it. And I'm just keeping the heat moving. Sorry about the shakiness. Okay, once I got it heated up, there's my two holes. I'm going to line up them on the top. And it slides on very easily now. And we can go ahead and put our screws back in. There's one. That one's not quite lining up just right. Still a little warm and expanded, but there we go. Oh. All right, and there's our motor back together, ready to go. Now would be a good time to hook it up and test it before it's hooked up, before I put all the wet end stuff on. That way, if something went wrong, I'll know. But now we can just go ahead and finish putting this pump back together. And for starters, we're going to I'm going to need some little alcohol wipes to kind of clean this up a bit here. Give you a little tour of my work area here. All right, so I have these little alcohol wipes, and I'm going to use these to just kind of clean up the grease and the silicone. Because we want a good clean surface area for our silicone to adhere to. Just got all the old silicone that I want to pull out. Don't want that getting in the way of our new shaft seal. Okay. Now, let's kind of clear off the old silicone off of this one. You can take a little wire brush or something to this side. You want to be careful with this side. This side is our little graphite carbon ring. We don't want to crack this end. As you can see, it works it uses a little spring action. And this is what puts tension against our other ceramic piece here in our impeller. And this needs to be a good clean area. On our back side, we have this metal ring here. And you know what, I'm going to grab my new silicone. Now it's important, you want a good silicone marine grade. This is Dow 3145 RTV, and it works very well in water applications. If you go by, the bed and bathroom or kitchen and bathroom silicone from Home Depot, that stuff, when it gets exposed to certain chemicals, will actually just kind of dissolve and deteriorate, whereas this one holds up really well. So I would not recommend using your kitchen and bathroom silicone. Try to find a non-gassing marine grade silicone adhesive. This is what I do recommend. It is pricey, but it works very well. All right, so I'm going to just clean up this shaft on this side here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take my silicone, and I'm just going to put a small little bead going around. So I'm trying to do this while looking in the camera. It's kind of difficult. And once I've got that on, I'm just going to take my finger, kind of rub it around. Just making sure it's kind of applied evenly. And then we'll take our O-ring here. And forgot to take the old stuff off of the O-ring. You want to just make sure these parts are really clean before we put them back together. But once we've got it cleaned off, we're going to just slide that O-ring over like so. And I'm not pushing it all the way down. I'm just kind of bringing it halfway. And then I can now seat it down into here. And to get it down in, I can try this with my thumb and see if I can push it down a little bit. It's a little bit stiff. So I do have this tool right here. It's kind of the perfect width of the outside metal ring. So we don't want to be pressing on this, on the inside ring. We want to be pressing on the furthest outer ring. As you can see, it just goes right over there like that. And I can now just kind of put my body weight a little bit onto it. And there we go. I heard it sink into place. And just to ensure that it's fully seated, I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to just kind of smooth the rest of the silicone that's squeezed out around the edge. And there we have it. Our shaft seal is now in place. And we've got this shaft seal already in place. To put this shaft seal in, typically the way it'll work is, I've got one here for an example, is you can see how this is set up. There's these little ribs. This is what seals that piece. This is what it looks like. I do use my little black tool, and I'll set it on upside down like so, and I will take my finger that still has a little bit of silicone just to use as a lubricant, and I'll work it around just like this. I try not to get it on the top side, just here on this side. And as I work it around, I've got it lubricated up, and then I can go ahead, flip it around, and then press it on down into my impeller. And that gives me what we got here. Next, I will take another alcohol wipe, and I'm going to clean off this top surface. We don't want any grease or silicone. We want to make sure this is a smooth, clean surface, because this is our wearing part that rubs against the other mating seal. And so I will do that, and I'll flip it around to make sure that any contaminants are on the inside, not on the outside. And I'm just going to go around again, and this time carefully on the top of the ring to clean that off. And then I will inspect it really carefully, make sure there's no contaminants on it, let the alcohol dry off. Now that that is in place, we can go ahead and we can inspect we do have this gasket right here. Now would be a good time to inspect it, make sure that it's not dry and cracking, that no water has been leaking around that edge. If it's all good, you can leave it be. We'll go ahead and flip it upside down, and we can now look through our holes right here and here to line up. And set the motor on top, and we can now put our screws right back in. I'm just going to snug them up by hand, make sure that they're all good. I did use an impact, which works great, but sometimes I don't go too much. And then sometimes I go too much. All right, anyways, next we can go ahead and put our impeller back on. That is just going to twist right on. And this time it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, or, clockwise will tighten, counterclockwise loosens. And this time I'm going to take my flathead screwdriver just to hold the fan blade in place. And then I'm not going super tight, I'm just getting it to where it snugs up. It will naturally, once it gets turning and rotating, it will naturally want to tighten up. Go ahead and take our pick, and I'm going to clean out the rest of the silicone here. And thankfully it just kind of pulls out in one nice big chunk. There's still a little piece right there. I may need to get some little tweezers or something to get in there with that. Get a little pair of pliers. Let's see if I can grab that little booger. There we go. Okay. You can take some compressed air right here. Just kind of blow out that little bit. Okay. And now we can take our screw and gasket. We want to make sure that one's cleaned of old silicone as well. Once you have it cleaned off, you can then take our silicone again, and we can just put a little glob on there. This will help seal it. Put the cap back on, it's starting to ooze out. Okay, and as I said before, this is the left-handed threaded screw, so to tighten, we're going to turn counterclockwise. And we get it nice and snug in there. Our silicone kind of seeps out the edges, that's fine. And now we can put our diffuser back on. Now we can snug those down. All right, once that's on, don't forget your O-ring. In our volute, there is this baffle. That baffle will go on just like that. We kind of line it up to be in the same shape with our rest of our pump. And we can now take our volute and turn it upside down to fit it on. Just gently kind of work it over the top. Line up our bolts, and we can get these started. Yeah, fortunately the nuts actually stayed in place, so that's a good thing. Typically they do with the brushless Champion wet ends. On our SVLs, not so much. The nuts will tend to fall off. If that's the case, you just hold it in place and put it back together. Yep. Tripped one there. Okay. Last one. Well, I guess I got my handle to put back on too. All right, and then we have our handle with the bolts still left in it. Throw those back on, get them started. Once I got everything started, I'll just zip them back together and work it kind of like in that tire fashion. Jump from one side to the next side. And we'll just go a little snug with my wrench. Just hand tighten. It doesn't have to be super tight. We're just making sure that gasket in between has a nice good pinch or squish on it. And if I were to take a guess, I'd say maybe 55 inch-pounds, or maybe 13 foot-pounds. It's not too tight. I don't know exactly what the rating spec is for it, but there we have it. We just got our little motor support to put back in. It just pushes right on, and we throw our screws back on, and with our 3/8 wrench we can tighten them down, and there you have it. That's pretty much it. That puts our pump back together. Hopefully this video helps you out. You know, it's sorry about that. It's just such a rough unedited video. And like I said, feel free to skip ahead. You won't hurt my feelings. If you got questions or comments, you know, I try to look at the comments on occasion to see if there's anything I can do to improve. Like I said, I'm not really a camera guy, so this is all kind of new to me, doing these videos. And if you got recommendations, though, I can look into it and see what I can do. But hey, thanks for watching. Overall time, you know, you can expect that this could take you up to an hour if you're, you know, quick and efficient. The bearings, replacing the bearings can be quite a challenge, especially if you don't have the right tools. You will definitely need that bearing puller, and you will need a press to put those bearings back on. You will want a torch to heat up the ends of those bells, the housing bells, because those bearings sit in there nice and tight. So just keep that in mind. Have those handy before you get started on this. And yeah, thanks for watching. Have a good day.